If you're not from Fairfield today, there's going to be some information here that's very specific to Jefferson County, but it will be, the other information is broadly applicable, but there are some specifics around what's available here, since we were sort of targeting this community. So I know there's some people here from out of town, so thank you for coming, and we're happy to have you here. So, we can maybe, everybody see that okay? Yeah? Okay. Yeah. Good old Margaret Mead. So I've just introduced myself quickly. My name is Jennifer Hamilton. I am a native Iowan, and I have been a deaf midwife for 23 years. I've served this community in that capacity and have the privilege of being with hundreds of people in their transitional process. It's been a wonderful education and an incredible opportunity for learning. And then also in the last almost 7 years now, I've been president of the Fairfield Cares, which is we're all volunteers, nonprofit dedicated to addressing the needs of elders in particular in our community, especially around healthcare, home care, and strategies for how we're going to do this in the future, living together here. So that's been my path and my joy. And because I've done that, it's put me as a volunteer, I've gone into lots of homes, into lots of situations, which I have then kind of gleaned a lot of information from here about things you might want to know about the state of our healthcare system, such as it is right now, and then some ideas or some strategies that we're considering and inviting you to consider in moving forward. My other cohort today is Leslie Lundquist. Leslie's here. And Leslie is an amazing person. She served in the Army. She was a major. And then she's now a full-time TM teacher. Used to be a TM teacher. And also has worked in insurance adjusting, and quite a number of different hats. And her main thing, though, this is one of our Fairfield angels, is that she has helped a lot of people move through services and help them literally walk through it, help them fill out forms, identify where they could get help and how. So Leslie has an enormous understanding of what services are available in our area and how to access those. And she's going to be talking about that today. So again, there's going to be a lot of information here. Again, some of it you probably know, but we're going to just move through it in the hope that it will provide something for everyone. I love this quote, and that includes all of you here. You are that group of thoughtful people. And we do need to be thinking very cleverly and very clearly about how it is we're going to be moving forward. Because there's great changes that are occurring in our world and certainly locally. And so Margaret Mead's charge to us is keep going and keep thinking, be creative, and don't give up hope, because it really is a great time for change. So this first lecture is part of a three-part series that we titled Revisioning or Dying, which sounds very woo. But really, this thing of revisioning or dying is actually very practical. And that's what these three lectures are about, is about the practical kinds of things that we need to be aware of and concerns that people have, and how are we going to address those. So really, in truth, revisioning our dying requires actually our revisioning our living. There's some really basic principles here that are true about life, and they will absolutely determine how we move forward in our life and how we move forward our life to our death. And that is, the first one is, remember, we are all in this together. This is our common destiny, our common journey. And what we decide to do and how we decide to do it is for us to do. and we are best served when we help each other. Thriving, cradle to grave, is not done in isolation, because it's not how nature works. Nature works and remains resilient in community. There is no isolation. There is no one man is an island in nature. We are absolutely connected and dependent on each other. And kind of embracing that and then moving forward in that and how we come up with strategies for what we need to get done is going to inform us in powerful ways. So because our consideration today then is this: we want to promote greater balance, safety, and well-being for all of us. And we must look at these things: what's in place, what's available to us now, what needs refinement, if you want to call it refinement. Maybe taking it apart would be part of it. And then what needs to be created. So these are things that we're going to be considering around this consideration of elder care in our county. And it is indeed a time of opportunity to reconsider how we want to prepare for the rest of our lives in community. We need to identify, communicate, and share our common needs. This is part of that process, is talking about it. Consider a better, more responsive vision for what we want to create. That's going to take time and energy and persistence on our part. Implement that vision together as a community for our community. So this is coming from the ground up. Many of our structures and systems in this country have very much been top down and very prescribed and actually commodified. So in doing that commodification, what's happened is then you end up with the things becoming very standardized and not really meeting individual needs. And no, we're all different. We all have different needs. And we need to have a system in place that's going to be able to better respond to those differences so that our care is tailored to us and not just, this is what you can have and sorry about the rest of it. So, levels of care. And as they apply to the later phase of life. Obviously the first one, independent living, is where most of us are at this point in varying degrees. This means we're in charge of our life, and the expectations for us during this time of independent living previously, or up and certainly including now, but has been that you're going to take care of yourself. And when it comes to the time when you need to get help, then it really is something that you have to really exert more attention to and really actively work to create for yourself. You have to advocate for yourself, or you have to have someone who will advocate for you. So there is independent living, which we're not going to obviously delve into much here, but home care, this is the big one. Home care supported by personal resources or social services. Home care is the new horizon for us. I'm going to talk quite a bit about this because this is where it is changing and growing. Then there's assisted living, skilled in residence care, and hospice care. So these are the things we'll be considering here this afternoon. So what is home care and why do we need it? Because home care is rapidly becoming the most pressing need in our society, both locally and globally. This isn't just here, it's everywhere. And why is that? Is that we are the silver tsunami, friends. We have arrived on the global scene, and there are a bunch of us. You'll notice that in Jefferson County, 64.2% are over 50 years of age. That's half of us. 46, sorry, let's see, 46.2, yes. And then 27% are over 65. The state average is 17.5%. So this is an older county with a lot of elders to account for. It's a huge deal. This is like a little, a real eye-opener. And this trend will continue in terms of increasing numbers, because there is this other slightly younger group that's still coming along. Even as we leave here, it's not going to get less for quite a while. So contrary to how the care system is set up now, we know three really clear messages have come to us from talking to elders. All of us who do care, and I know you're out there, I know all you good volunteers that are out there doing this good work. There is a clear desire in our generation that we want to age in place. We do not want to be institutionalized, either in assisted living, in extended cares, in residence, nursing homes. We don't want to do it. And we want to die at home. So we want, right, everybody? Yes, is this true? Look, almost everyone. So it's true, this is a real desire. So if this is our desire, let's create it, right? Let's get together and start thinking about this, thinking creatively how we can create this. So home care offers a community-based alternative to provide in-home care for elders. That's what it's for, in part. And this actually applies across generations. It isn't just for the old people. It's for everyone, really. And we really want to embrace everyone. This is one of the challenges of addressing home care, is that we tend to think just about our age group, but actually it is for everyone. It's for people of all ages and in all kinds of conditions. So we have a charge to do some good visioning for this. So there are three pillars to home care: volunteerism, community services, which is what Leslie's going to really dive into here in a minute, and then care providers, both private and paid. Right now, this is what we have, okay? Volunteerism, my favorite. I love this town so much. One of the great things that I see in it, and I see it every day, is the astonishing heroism and generosity of people that go about their lives contributing to the welfare of others. In small ways, in big ways, but they are doing it. You are doing it. This is one of the most powerful things. This is the momentum that we have to actually do some really beautiful transformational work, is embracing volunteerism. This is not some kind of convenient thing we do, here and there. It's really can be part of actually what's necessary for us to forge these bonds of a care culture in our community, and it's happening, which is a really beautiful thing. So these volunteers, a lot of you here, you're the quiet army of help, and you're out there doing this. Bless you for doing this. It is critically important. We just need more of it. We all need it for ourselves, for our loved ones, for the young people. We need it for everyone. Again, creating and supporting and nurturing that culture of care. Volunteers can be, typo there, called volunteers enhance the effectiveness when they're coordinated through an organization. That can help. Sometimes getting a little organizational support can really help target volunteers and get them organized better so that what they're trying to do for someone is more effective. And this is something with Fairfield Cares that we've been developing. And we've been doing this now for about a year. And what it is, we call it the Fairfield Cares team approach. And I have this here because I want you to use it. It doesn't have to be precious to us. I want you to actually feel like this is something you could do. And it's pretty simple. If someone is in need, for whatever it is, whether it's a short-term thing like a hip replacement, or they have some recovery period, someone's going through an extended period like with chemotherapy, whatever it is, you're going to, that person requests help. You identify who is their personal cohort. So this can be either very small or quite large. And that's where you're going to draw your volunteer base from. So this could be their church group. It could be their satsang. It could be their pickleball group. That's a big one. Boy, you pickleball people, you are good. I've seen you do some beautiful things in supporting and caring for people in your clubs, bravo. But you're going to activate that cohort. You're going to say, we need to get together and help. Then you organize a Zoom meeting. That's the easiest way to do it. You don't have to. You can do it in person. I've certainly done that. But Zoom, sometimes it just, it's a convenient way to do it. But you get together and then you coordinate. You talk with this cohort and you say, let's coordinate and identify needs and goals for this person. In this thing, what I do, this part of my job in this is to help people sometimes understand the condition of the person that they're trying to help, especially people who have dementias or Alzheimer's. This can be very complicating, very challenging, and so sometimes that's when I put on my nurse hat, and we talk about some of the things that we can keep in mind about caring for people with dementias or Alzheimer's. Then we use a meal train. This is a national platform. This is a great service. These people are angels, these meal train people. It's a free service. You can either use a plain meal train, which is just one meal, or you can use Meal Train Plus, which is a broader platform that actually helps you coordinate care. It could be walks, it could be sitting with someone, it could be getting them to the doctor. Again, this is non-skilled care. This is volunteer care. We're not talking about nursing care. We're talking about daily living kinds of help. Then this can be especially useful, that Meal Train Plus, for long-term needs. And really coordinating that through time, because you can build this calendar and it goes out, it can go out for months. And then people come in. Then the goal here is to try to help, one, coordinate the care, but also protect the caregivers who suffer from burnout. How many of you have done caregiving? How many of you had burnout? Come on, I know you're out there. Yeah, okay. So it's a big deal. It's a huge challenge. We need to help those primary caregivers so that they don't get worn out, because they do. Because out of the force of love and commitment, and there's some people in this room that are heroic in this service to a loved one, that are taking care of them, and they're shouldering the burden of that. Joyfully and happily, but nonetheless the burden. We need to help them. Then there's also a fundraising option within the meal train. This is a cool thing. Meal Train's going to take its pound of flesh, because what group doesn't? But there is a fundraising option there on the Meal Train site that you could also use with that. So this is something you can utilize if you know someone who. This is a great way to do it, and it's fun too, because you really get a chance to really talk about things, come to deeper understanding of each other's needs, and the needs of the person needing help. Other options to coordinate volunteers, again, you could just use a simple meal train for short-term, especially for short-term needs or goals. You could go so far, and there have been some people that have done this because they didn't want to do the meal train, which is fine, but they use an Excel spreadsheet, but then you're going to need a coordinator. And then they set up a schedule and they operationalize. It can work really well, but it does require someone who's going to be the point person and oversee it. Where the meal train, the platform does a lot of that for you. It's very elegant that way. Then fundraising, if you need to raise funds for people, which is always the case, you can use GoFundMe, Facebook, whatever, online services. There are lots of them. Find one and utilize that. So, when in doubt, volunteer. So no offer of help is too small or too great. Your gifts, your talents, whatever assistance you can give, whether it's physical, emotional, spiritual, or financial, we're not just supporting one person. We're actually building the care culture. It's a very powerful thing where people feel like, I'm upheld here. It's a really powerful effect in a community, and it's happening here in Fairfield. Building this care culture and community spirit, which is of course what we want to do, and again, no offer of help is too small or too great. So that's my pitch for volunteerism. If you'd like, you'd be sure to sign up at the table in the back. There we have for Fairfield Cares, but also there are other volunteer organizations. There's the Well, there's Mother Divine Church, Divine Mother Church. There's lots of them. There's the volunteer center here in the library. There's There's RSVP. There are lots of organizations that you can direct if you want to utilize this thing of being in an organization, or you can just carry on in your beautiful work as a volunteer of help. So that's my pitch for volunteerism. So now I think we're going to move on, and Leslie is going to come up and share with us about social services, because this is part of our milieu that we can actually utilize to help us stay at home. Because there are social services in place, they do work, but it's the big challenge is accessing them. And that's what someone like Leslie is indispensable, because she has such a good, strong grip on this. So Leslie, there you go.
Thank you, Jennifer. So, it's a great turnout. Thanks for coming. My part of this is to kind of go through these different social programs that are available for people who have decided to ask for help through the social programs. It'd be really nice if you could just call up these organizations and say, hey, I need an extra $300 to make my rent this month. Can you send it to me? It doesn't quite work like that. So each organization has their own forms. They all have their own qualifications. They have their own income level, asset levels. They have their own eligibility. And what we're going to be doing is going through these different organizations. And when we get at the end of this presentation, at the back, you're going to have 9 little handy-dandy take-home sheets that in 1 page or 2 page give you a real good start of where to contact these people, how to contact them, whether by phone or online, phone numbers, addresses, information, and a real good start to get started. Now, you don't have to do all of this by yourself. You can have somebody else help you, a family member, a friend, a volunteer. But once you decide to ask for them help, it's good to take it. I remember when I first came back to Fairfield to live in 2003, I had been in Washington, D.C. for a few years doing home renovation work, and I had some savings in my pocket. But that kind of quickly disappeared as I tried to find a job in my niche here in Fairfield. And I ended up applying for food stamps. Now, I was 50 years old, fully capable of working, but I couldn't really find the job I wanted. So I went and applied for food stamps and kind of went, okay, I need help. And it was hard. And sometimes that first step is hard. But it's worth it. It really is. And back then, they gave you these little coupon books with $1, $5, $10 little pieces of paper you pulled out. Did anybody use those? Okay. And you remember how awful it was, I think, probably. I don't know. Yes? No? And at everybody's, you had to go up to the customer service and use your food stamps. So you put all your food up on the customer service, and everybody knew you were on food stamps. And you just went, okay, thank you very much. Now it's a much simpler process. They give you like a debit card. And once you've been approved for food stamps, you get a little card like this. This is one of the older ones. The newer ones are blue with a farm, a silo, some cornfields. And you just go in, and when you're at Hy-Vee or everybody's, you just slip it into the machine. Slide it down. It's great. But I regress. We're going to be talking about these different social services today. Most of these are for low-income households, and that's usually under $2,000 a month. Each program has a little bit different gradation, but when you pick up your handy-dandy sheets, which you all will have one, you can take them home with you and read them. And my purpose and what I was really hoping to have happen here today is that from here, we just kind of like morph out. The information you receive today, you can share with other people. You know, you can copy these sheets yourself and distribute them to other folks. It's not science, it's not secret, it's all public knowledge. If you have a computer, you can obviously do some research on the computer for all these different programs yourself, because there's tons and tons and tons of information on all the different websites for these different programs. Okay, so most of these are for renters and homeowners. Some of them are just for renters. For instance, Section 8, Area 15, Section 8 is just for renters. Iowa rent reimbursement is just for renters. Everything else pretty much is for everybody else. When they ask for income on these forms, though, you need to understand it's all your income. It's your Social Security. It might be your pension. It could be the annuity interest you have, if you have any annuities. It could be your odd jobs. So when you fill out the forms, they're very specific as what they want in the different spaces. And once you turn it in, you turn it in. A lot of these things go through Health and Human Services, SNAP, or food stamps, sometimes called EBT, Medicaid, which is a huge program, and we're going to really delve into that a little bit more in just a minute, and the Iowa rent reimbursement goes through Health and Human Services over on Maple Street. And what I really highly suggest is when you fill out these forms, for these three programs anyway, is you take them directly to them, have them look at them, get a copy for your records, and just say, hey, does this look about right? And they'll let you know. Then once they're put in, you're assigned a caseworker, and if they need more information, they'll contact you by letter, rarely by phone, and then you provide any other information that perhaps was left off the application or they needed more explanation about. Does that make sense? Yeah, okay. Like I said, you don't have to do this all yourself. You can have a friend help you, or a family member, or a volunteer. One thing I really suggest very strongly is to keep in touch with these different social organizations once you put in your paperwork. Let them put a face, if possible, to your name, and keep those communication lines open. Because sometimes these programs take a long time to develop. For instance, Area 15, Section 8, right now there's a 6-month waiting list to get that assistance. And during that period of time, they'll send you 2 or 3 packets of information that need to be filled out and sent back in. So you need to keep them up to date with their phone number and your address, because the post office does not forward that information. That's just a little tip. And in fact, I actually just get in my car and I run the paperwork right up to agency, which is where Area 15 is, and hand it to them, have them look at it, have them stamp it, and have them make copies for me. And I found that to be really good, because I think you're familiar with that process between the washing machine and the dryer where the socks go someplace. And it's called the hose zone, as far as I know. You might have a different name for it. But with Area 15, many times when I first started helping people, we'd put it in the mail and they'd never get it. And I'd call up, I said, did you receive it? And they'd say, no. I said, well, I sent it a week ago. Well, it takes 4 or 5 days to get here to agency. We understand it's only 15 miles from Fairfield, but it takes 4 or 5 days. And I'd say, okay, fine, I'm gonna be delivering these by hand from now on. So, most of these services are in Fairfield. You can go right to these different offices and hand in the form and have them look at it. Okay? I talked about always call, try to put a face on it, But the more you have in communication and interpersonal communication, it works out a lot better anyway. And hand deliver those forms when you can. So let's go right into SNAP. SNAP is also called food stamps or EBT. It's a fairly thick application. And if you stop by the table on the way back, I don't have an application with everybody here, but I have quite a few. And those are available at the Health and Human Services Office, or DHS, at 304 South Maple Street. And it's called Food and Financial Support Application. That's for your food stamps. When you're approved, you get a notice of decision that looks something like this, and it'll tell you how much they're going to put on your EBT card every month. And that's loaded on a particular day of the month, and it's the same day of every month, but it's like Christmas. On the 3rd, $250 comes into my card, and I go, wow. And I go to everybody's and Hy-Vee. The other thing about SNAP that is going on is at Hy-Vee only, not Walmart. Where are my cards? Oh, not Walmart or everybody's, is they have these little dollars called food bucks. When you buy $1 in fruit or vegetable, you get a food buck back. Now that's limited. Oh, look, Rosie is showing her food bucks.
Did you ever call her every 3 months?
Yeah.
Just little ones in there for $1.
So, there they are. Food bucks. You can get up to $10 back each time you go into the grocery store when you buy fresh fruits and vegetables. So you go in, you buy $10 of fruits and vegetables, you go back out to your car, and maybe a little later in the day you go back again and get another $10. But when you turn them in, you can only use $10 at a time. So this really stretches. stretches things big
What
time.
is it called again?
This is called Double Up Food Bucks.
So what do I ask the cashier for?
Do you have a EBT card? Are you on food
Yes,
stamps?
I have an EBT card.
Yes, when you go through the checkout and you buy the food with your EBT, you say, I'd like, if they don't offer it, you say, I'd like my food bucks, please.
Food bucks.
Food bucks.
Awesome.
And you get up to 10 bucks, 10 little individual pieces of paper every time you go in.
Every day.
You can go every day if you want. And like I said, I've known people go in the morning and go in the evening and change a shift. Huh?
A day.
A day, yeah, $10 a day. It's a great program. They've had it for maybe 2 years, and it's huge. I mean, think about it. Every time you go in, you get $10 free fruits and vegetables. It's not for canned stuff. It's only for fresh, and they don't care if it's organic or not organic. But the cashiers aren't always that trained or willing to just offer them to you. So when you use your EBT card, if they don't say, here, your food bucks, you know, obviously, you've what, $20 worth of vegetables, here's your $10 food bucks. Be proactive, say, I'd like my food bucks, please. And they go, oh, yes, of course. Then they get them out and give them to you. Good thing, good thing. So, typically when you put in the application for SNAP, within 30 days you'll have an answer. Like I said, if they need any other additional information, they'll contact you through the mail, and you just get that to them. Now, if you don't like what they said, or they don't approve of you, or they disapprove of your application, there's an appeal process. And that's all very well highlighted. Now, there's a question here. Do we want to take questions now? No.
Yeah, a quick one. It says based on income.
Yes.
What about, non-income money that you have?
Basically, income is everything. When you're talking about non-income, you're talking maybe money from family, from friends.
Savings account?
Savings account, that's an asset. And each of these programs have different income levels and different assets.
Okay.
But when you pick up your, what I call your handy dandy information sheet, all those particular numbers are on the sheet. So I'm not going to go into those numbers here. It'll be a really long program if we do that. So that's SNAP. Next we're going to dive deep into Medicaid. Medicaid is this huge umbrella program. It's amazing what it encompasses and what it can do for you. Again, the forms are available at the office on Maple Street and online. I don't do too much, I'll tell you what, I just don't do too much online. I know a lot of people like online, but then you have to scan everything and fax everything and throw it into PDF and send it off. I like paper. I like seeing a person. I like getting a copy. I like getting them date and stamped. You know, because when you have that date stamped, that means you've been there, they know who you are, they're going to do something. Who knows about the internet? Now, when you get to be 65, Medicaid really kicks in more. That's not to say there's not Medicaid for under 65. There's Medicaid for kids, there's Medicaid for pregnant women, there's Medicaid for women with certain health challenges, there's Medicaid for children from the age of 19 to 64. There's a lot of different programs out there that people can have for Medicaid. But particularly in this age group, probably, we're going to be talking about 65 and over. At 65 and over is when you really move into situations sometimes where you just don't have the money you thought you might have. Your savings might have dwindled. You might be living mostly on your Social Security. In fact, across America right now, about 15% of women over 65 are living only on their Social Security, and 12% men. And that's just how things work sometimes. Life just happens sometimes like that. Or you might have had jobs where you worked your whole life, but they were more in service organizations and they didn't provide a whole lot of financial recognition, not retribution, recognition. You know, I don't know what all your own personal, individual financial situations are, but most people, as they get a little older, it gets tighter. So Medicaid is something that is available when you fall within the parameters of the income level and the asset level. Now, one of the things that people over 65, you know, once you're 65, you get your Medicare. Well, that's basically if you paid into Medicare. You know, Medicare is driven by taxes that were taken out when you worked, and it's given to Social Security, and Social Security and Medicare are kind of a two-pronged type of thing. If you spent most of your life not working in a capacity where taxes were paid, you have to work at least 10 years or 40 quarters to get Social Security in this country. Not everybody has that. I'm going to be talking a little bit about what happens if you don't have that. But if you have worked 10 years and 40 quarters, I imagine over the years you used to get your Social Security statements. Once a year it would come out of how much you made each year and how much went to taxes and how much went to Medicare. Not a whole lot went into Medicare. If you look at those numbers, it's like, how do they pay all this money out? It's pretty interesting. But it does work, and it is still a functional program, although you always hear some chitter chatter about how things might be different in the future. But for right now, we have Medicare, we have Medicaid, and Medicaid and Medicare sometimes are kind of interwoven. Now this first one, called the Medicare Savings Program, it helps to pay premiums, deductibles, copay, and coinsurance. There's a certain income level and asset level for that, but once you have that, then they pay that $164.50 that comes out of your Social Security check under Medicare Part B. Right? And most people have that money being withdrawn from their Social Security checks. Have you looked at that before? Okay. Well, if you don't have the Medicare Savings Program, you're having at least $164.50 taken out of your Social Security every month. Now, if you earn over, say, $97,000, they take out a little bit more. Okay. It's a great program. Some people who are in a certain income bracket, like myself, I make less than, I'll tell you, I make less than $1,200 a month, and I can apply for all these programs because I'm right underneath that income level that allows you to do all these programs. You know, if you're having $800 come in, you qualify. $900, $1,000, $1,100, $1,200. Once you get to $1,250, then certain programs apply and certain programs don't. And like I said, each program, they have their own qualifications. They've got their own deal going on. And we just roll with what we can roll with and apply for what we can apply for. Is this making sense? Sense? Okay, good. So in my particular category, I don't have full Medicaid. I have what is called partial Medicaid, but it does pay my premium. So every month when I get my Social Security deposited directly into my bank, that money is not taken out. I get that as part of my monthly addition each month. It's like another gift. It's an extra $164 I have to pay rent and pay for repairs on my car, which keeps breaking down. Okay. So there's partial Medicaid, there's full Medicaid. And I don't want to get too inundated with all these particulars, but once you fill out the form and you turn it in, they'll tell you what you're eligible for. The next one, state supplemental assistance. This is what falls into what some people here have home health care. They have a person who comes into their home to help them do their activity of daily living. They might drive them places, take them to the doctor, cook food, clean, whatever they need. And again, that's based on your Medicaid form. The general Medicaid form is also going to be in the back. And it looks like this. It's called the Application for Health Coverage and Health Paying Costs. This is a little thicker. They want more information. But at the back of this is what's called Appendix A. And this is what you need once you're over 65 to be able to apply for a Medicare Savings Program, to apply for in-home health, to apply for waivers, to apply for nursing home help, and more extensive in-home services. So Appendix A, just filling out the Medicaid is not enough. Fill out Appendix A, because that possibly can open up you to this whole other level of care in your home, because we want to have care in our home. You know, we don't want to go to assisted living, we don't want to go to nursing homes. When you need a little extra help, and maybe your family can't do it or friends can't help, there are social programs that will pay someone to come in and help out. So remember to fill out Appendix A if you're over 65. If you're under 65, these programs don't apply to you. So the Medicaid handy-dandy handout is either 1 or 2 pages long. But like I said, each handout has basic information to get you started. I think you'll find that it's pretty concise, it's pretty clear. If there's any typos or things you want to discuss with me, I'll give you my number later, and we can make adjustments. waiver program. There are lots of different waivers, but the most important one for over 65 is called the elder waiver. This is great. I want to tell you that out of all the waiver programs, and there's 8 or 9 of them, things like brain injury, physical disability, health and physical disability, etc. The elder waiver is the only waiver that does not have a waiting list. It's the only waiver that does not have a waiting list. Now, this is really important because you can apply for it and you can be approved for it through a case manager, but there might not be a slot available. And this all became very clear to me just recently as I did more research on this. I actually got a chart of all the different slots that are available for each of the different waivers. And then it told you how many of those waivers are already being used. And then it told you how many people are in process. And it told you how many people are on the waiting list. Now, for some of these waivers, it's a 2 to 4 year waiting list. Okay? So if it's brain injury or some of these other things, it's a long wait. It's a very long wait. But right now, and for the last number of months, there's a 0 waiting time once you've been approved for the elder waiver. This is awesome. Now, at some point, they'll put more money and there'll be more slots for all these different waivers, but right now it's not happening. Okay?
Can I say something quickly? I have been approved for 6 months,
Right?
and the problem is they cannot find people who will take the job because it's only $13 a day.
$13 an hour, yes.
An
It is a
hour.
major problem.
So you can get approved, but the other part's missing. I just
Yeah.
wanted to throw that out.
You're absolutely right. I'm glad you brought that up at this point.
Thank you.
Yeah, because it is a very low approval amount. It's out of touch, and something needs to be done.
Will you repeat the question? Because-
Oh, the repeating question. When you're approved these programs, the pay that they give is $13 per hour. Okay, and I was making the comment that's out of touch, and that for what you do for the person and the services you perform, it's not reasonable. I'm sorry, that's my opinion.
One person approached me and said, if you can give me cash under the table, I will do it.
Right.
And I found out that it was a federal offense.
Yes, it is a federal
I'm not
offense.
going to mess with that. Not even cash.
Yeah, gotta keep going.
Not worth it. If
Okay,
it was
now-
a state offense, I'd do it.
We'll have more questions and comments. These are really good illustrations, but we have a lot to cover, so we want to keep
I'm
it going.
sorry.
But thank you, it's okay. Thank you, though.
Now, as I was collecting lots of different information from around town over Health and Human Services, they gave me quite a few applications for SNAP and Medicaid and Iowa rent reimbursement, and they gave me a number of these brochures, which is the waiver program.
Okay.
And these are available at Health and Human Services on Maple Street. So this goes into all the different waivers and tells you all about the programs, and it tells you the direct line to talk to somebody. Okay, so we're gonna move to the next one. Area 15, Section 8. This is available only for renters. If you own your home, you don't qualify. This is a federal program. It's done by HUD, Housing and Urban Development, and you have your eligibilities. Right now, as I mentioned, there's a 6-month call list, or a 6-month waiting list, and they want you to just call the office and get the application sent to you. The first application is just real simple, just 2 pages, and then they start sending you different things. And this is the organization you really have to keep in touch with. I'll call them every month, check in, say, hey, I'm just checking in, how's my application coming? It's still 4 months before we have a decision. Okay, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that information. And again, keep on top of it. When they send you forms, they usually have a fairly short suspense coming back, like 3 weeks, and you have to go to your bank, you have to get different documentation. If ever any organization gives you a letter and says this has to be done by this date, and you don't get it done by that date, that doesn't mean you're disqualified. Just call them up, explain the situation, say I need a little more time, and they'll give you another date. So don't think that if you go past that suspense date that you're doomed, you can never apply for that again. Just call them. They're humans. They know things happen. Life happens. So be proactive and talk to people. I'm a big fan of talking. You've probably noticed that by now. So, Area 15, Section As I mentioned, on that handy dandy little handout sheet, it has all the income levels and assets levels, and it'll become all very clear. One thing they do every year is they inspect your property where you're renting to make sure it's safe and everything works. Everything has to work. If you have 4 burners on a stove and only 3 work, that has to be fixed. If there's a crack in the window, that has to be fixed. If the lock on the door doesn't work, that has to be fixed. They want you to be safe. They want you to be healthy. They want you to live in a decent place. And not everybody in Fairfield will accept an Area 15 contract because they know that means you have to keep your place up. But there's a number of landlords who do. So if you're thinking of applying for Area 15, know there's a 6-month period and you can look for a different place. There's also a limit on how much you can spend on rent. For right now, a 1-bedroom is, I believe, $650, and in November those numbers go up. In fact, for all these programs, the numbers go up every year. So when you look at your pieces of paper and you see those numbers, know that every year the numbers go up. Just know that. But once you're on Area 15, Section 8, it's like clockwork. They send that portion of the rent that they're going to approve for you directly to the landlord, and then you have a little bit left over to pay. And if your income is $850, they have this calculation to where they would take about 1/3 of your Social Security check. Where they determine, no, strike that, we're not going to do that. They'll figure out what you're going to get, and it's going to be great. Because every month, that part's paid for, and you just pay maybe $150 or $200 for your rent of $600. Once you're in it, it's great. You have to be really patient with this program. You have to keep on top of things, though. So please, just keep that in mind. Like I said, I take the forms right to agency. I don't trust the post office with agency, with Area 15 forms. I just don't, sorry. Another one that's for homeowners and renters is called LIHEAP, which is your Low-Income Home Energy Assistance Program. And this is located in the Saida building back behind the annex, right across the street from the post office annex. So if you're going up 34, you turn left at True Value, go to the next right, go down the street on the right, it's on the left. It says big sign, Saida. And LIHEAP is on the right-hand side. Now LIHEAP is good for people, renters or homeowners. It helps pay for winter heat. They have an application to fill out, and it's a straightforward application. The blocks are little, but get a magnifying glass. And if your utilities are in the landlord's name, you need an extra form that they give you that the landlord fills out saying, yes, the utilities are in my name, this is the account number, and this person pays the utilities. Now, again, LIHEAP's another one of those things that once you're in, because every year they send you a new application or just a renewal form, and like clockwork, you get $400, $440, or $480, or $500, depending on your situation. It's paid directly to your utility company, like Alliant or whoever else you might have. You don't see that money, it's not a check that comes to you. It goes to your utility company, and it normally comes in December or January. Now, the other thing about LIHEAP and Saida is during the winter months, you probably know this, but there's a moratorium. If you're behind on your payments, they cannot shut off your heat or electricity from November to April 1st. Starting April 1st, if you're behind on your payments, you need to call them up and set up a budget billing plan or a loan repayment plan. And again, they're happy to do that. They'll make whatever accommodations they need to make it happen for you. Well, another thing that's available is starting at April 1st, if you're really behind on your payments, because $440 may not go that far in the winter, and there might be other things that came up, you can ask for what they call emergency assistance. And depending on funding, they have about $700 per household available starting April 1st to cover those past bills. So, just putting that out there, that's available if you need it, if the situation arises for you. And Shelby, who's in the office, is a very kind soul, and she helps people out a lot. The Iowa Rent Reimbursement Program. This is a cool one. Again, this is only for renters, sorry homeowners, but I think homeowners over 65 get some break on their property taxes. Is that true? Yeah. So this is for renters. It usually takes 2 to 3 months to get the money back. And there's a maximum of $1,000 per household, and that's based on your income, the number of people in your house, and how much rent you pay. They have their own formula for doing this. You can pick up the form. The Iowa rent reimbursement is at Health and Human Services on Maple Street, and there's a bunch of forms at the back of the thing here. Right now, they're taking applications from 2021 and 2022. So you can go back a year to 2021 and apply for this if you haven't heard of this program before and you fall within the income. And the income is about, I think it was about $24,000 for 2021 for one person and $25,000 for one person in 2022. Not a very hard form to fill out, and you put it in, and 2 or 3 months down the road, they actually send you a check, or you have it directly deposited into your bank for $300, $400, $600, depending on your situation. There's a website which you can go to. You can just Google, "Where's my Iowa rent reimbursement refund?" And it'll pull it right up, and it'll tell you, enter your name, enter your social security number, and enter your case number. Now, once you have your rent reimbursement form from Health and Human Services, once you bring it back to them, they send it in, and within 2 weeks, if you call that office back, they will give you your case number. Okay? So when you want to see if your rent reimbursement has been processed, or if they've gotten it, or where it is in the process, you need that case number, you need your social security number, and the year you're applying for. Okay? So same thing with Medicaid and SNAP. Once you get your notice of decision, there'll be a case number on that, and that's very important. If you want to send any other information in, you should put that case number on it.
How do you apply again? Tell me.
The Iowa Rent Reimbursement Program, the forms will be in the back,
Okay.
and they're at the Health and Human Services office on Maple Street. They're pretty good. I put mine in this year. I asked for it to be deposited to the bank, and a check came to my house, which I was very happy to take in cash. So either way it comes, it's nice. Like I said, it usually takes 2 to 3 months, and they do kind of keep you updated with a little bit of it. They said, "We've received your application, we're processing." We're still processing your application. Please be patient. We're still in the processing application mode. Yes, your claim has been approved, but we haven't issued the check yet. Yes, we're still processing your check. It goes on. So, I wouldn't check every day, like, once a week or once a month. It's probably plenty. But sooner or later, it does come to you. And there actually is a number you can call in case you don't see it for 3 months. But like I said, from online, you can directly see where it is in the application process. Or the people over on Maple Street, they'll look it up for you. In fact, the people in the office over there are great. They'll look up anything for you. They'll look up and tell you how long your approval is for, when it's going to run out, when you're going to get the new forms in the mail, what to do if you don't get those forms in the mail. Yeah. Okay, next. Oh, sorry, back one. Jefferson County General Assistance. This is something not a whole lot of people know about. This is at the courthouse, in the same office that has Veterans Affairs, on the same floor as where you pay taxes and get your license. On your handout sheet, it has the number and the name of the person you'll be speaking to, and there's some forms back there for that too. But for once a year, you can get a maximum grant of up to $500. This is primarily for very low-income people that have $1,200 or less a month that comes in, and not a whole lot of assets. You have to live in Jefferson County, and you have to be a renter or a homeowner. They don't deal with delinquent payments. They don't deal with disconnect notices or what you owe in the past, but they'll pay current rental bills or current utility bills. So that's up to $500 a month if you qualify income-wise. I'm sorry, you're right. Oh, $500 a month. Let's envision this. Okay, everybody, envisioning process. Okay. But right now, it's $500 a year. And this is mainly through Jefferson County, not taxes, property taxes that people pay. Like I said, this is really not one many people know about. But last year when I was talking to Raymond, he said they distributed over $30,000 in general fund assistance, relief programs, mostly for rent and utilities, and then approximately $17,000 for burial costs. That's another thing you may not understand or be cognizant of. If you're at a low income of, say, $1,200 a month or less, you can go to that office and they will help pay for burial costs. Up to $500. Burial, when you pass.
As in a cremation.
As in cremation or whatever you need to use to be buried. No, it's only cremation? Okay, I don't have that on me handy dandy. I will be revising that. Okay, yeah. So, that's available. They're pretty particular. They want a lot of information and then they're pretty strict on how you put the information down. So, don't be dissuaded, just keep working it. Okay, now we're ready. The well. How many people know about the well? The first store down by the hospital? Okay, do you know that they also have a relief fund, emergency funds that they can give to people? How many people know that? Okay, a couple people, good. They do a whole bunch of stuff. They've got the thrift store, they've got programs to train you, they've got counseling, they've got all types of things. And this is a little bit different. This is a faith-based ministry. They get their donations from churches, from people, from nonprofits, and they can be a whole lot looser with their qualifications and income. Basically, all you need to do is call them and set up an appointment to go get a form and talk to an intake counselor and fill out the form, and then they have you come back for an interview with some information you have about what you need the money for, and then they, within 3 or 4 days, they give you an answer. They don't give you the money directly. They'll pay the landlord directly or the utility company. But it's not just for rent and utilities, but other emergencies that might come up in life. So that's the well. Social Security. How many people here are in Social Security? Okay, nearly everybody. I love it. On the 3rd, the money comes in. I look at my bank account and go, this is a good day. As I mentioned, 15% of women are living on Social Security only in this country, and 12% of men. A fun little fact, 10% of people in America have no savings. 20% have less than 1,000. 60% have less than 5,000. Life happens. And with inflation, it's a little tougher these days. So, as with Social Security, all those that have had it, you know, you've worked at least 10 years, have 40 quarters, and your Social Security is directly based on how much money you made during your work career. And, yeah, how much money you earn. The idea of Social Security was a safety net, but it's not a safety net for most people now. Most people use their Social Security for the majority of their expenses. Okay? Most people in America use their Social Security for the majority of their expenses. The dynamic of the workplace has changed drastically. You know, back in the 50s and 60s, you had unions and you had pensions and you had all kinds of stuff going on. And that's not quite the case anymore. You get your salary, you pay your taxes, and then you're retired. I long for a day when there's pensions for everyone. If you're working for a company 30 years, 40 years, a pension seems reasonable to me, considering what corporate people make. Another subject, sorry, I digress. You can retire at age 62. You can retire at age 70. Every year you spend working or not retiring, you get more money each month. But at some point, you know, if you're having health issues or other things come up and you need to retire at 62, if you need the money then, you need the money then, and you'll figure it out later. So here on Medicare, another huge topic. If you have a computer, you can spend lots of time reading lots and lots of different sites and lots of different information on Medicare.gov and all the other ancillary things. But basically, here's your overview. Your Medicare taxes while working pay for your Part A premium. Okay, Part A is your hospital. Part B is your medical, like when you go to the JCHC clinic. And that's where, if you have a Medicare savings plan and the premium from Appendix A from your Medicaid, help me pay things. If you're on the Medicare savings plan, you do not have to pay that $164.50. Part C is your Advantage plan. Now, a lot of Americans are on Medicare Advantage plans and they have a lot of great things that go for them. Some people don't use the Advantage plans, and from what I can understand, for the most part, it's primarily those folks are mostly immunocompromised and taking very specific drugs that are not in the formulary for these Advantage plans. The Advantage plans are great for basic drugs and generics, but if there's a particular type of drug that only works for you, and it's not in the Advantage package of drugs they approve, then the Advantage plan doesn't work out very well for you. Was that too confusing? Okay. So I have a couple of friends that are on disability, and they're not on the Advantage plan, although that has lots of cool benefits, because the drugs they use, which are specific to them, and the only ones that work, are not in the formulary for the Advantage plan people. And that's just the way it is. They have these drugs that they approve and drugs that they don't. So, one nice thing about Advantage plan, if you're, say, low income, under $1,200 a month, and on Medicaid, you have what's called dual coverage. That means you do not pay any premiums, you don't pay any deductibles, you don't pay any copays. Well, small copay for prescriptions, you know, $1 to $3, maximum $7. The Advantage plan also for dual and full Medicaid and partial Medicaid also gives you an extra $205, this year, starting, $205 a month. Okay, so this is a Medicare Advantage dual plan with UnitedHealthcare. There's other ones out there, but this is one I'm familiar with. $205 a month to spend on food, over-the-counter, and utilities, certain utilities. But it's only good at Walmart and Walgreens and a couple other places. It's not good at everybody's or Hy-Vee. And I have a card somewhere. Let me
With the Walmart, you can't order online for that.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can order online, you can be in person. So I got a UnitedHealthcare card. That's my Advantage plan. And I'm on dual complete because I also get partial Medicaid, not full Medicaid. But this year, they changed it so people with partial Medicaid get this full benefit. I went, whoa, okay, I'll take that. And there's only food. It's almost every food there is. You know, there's fresh food, fresh vegetables, canned food, frozen food. You can't use it for liquor, you can't use it for guns. You can't use it for guns and ammunition. Can't use it for knives. But you can use it for a lot of things. You can use it for, you know, those assist bars you put into your bathroom so you're stable. You can use it for chairs to sit in your shower. You can use it for pulse ox dubers. You can use it for thermometers. You can use it for all your over-the-counter supplements and Band-Aids and Biofreeze. You can use it for a lot of things. And there's certain things you can't use it for. Now, they also put out a booklet of all the things that are available for this, but if you are on Medicaid partial or full benefit, you get that extra $205 when you're on the Medicare Advantage plan. Now, I'm not going to talk too much more about that. Medicare, we have insurance agents in this area that are very well versed in it, and they give public forums that last 2 to 3 hours and give you all the information about Medicare. If you haven't been to one of those things, I really recommend you go to one of those because you get a lot of information and figure out what you need to do to customize the supplements or the Medicare plan for your particular situation. And there's so many supplements out there and there's so many plans out there, I'm not even going to go into that. Talk to your insurance agent and go to those public meetings because they're full of information. The only other thing is if you're widowed, there is something called survivor benefits that you can apply for at age 60 or over 50 if you're disabled. And there's also the thing if you're divorced, if you've been married to that person for 10 years, once you turn 65, I believe, you can apply for half of their Social Security, if your Social Security isn't as much as theirs. That's a little more technical, but there are programs for that. You have to be married 10 years, not 9 years, 9 months.
Right.
10 years at least.
Yeah.
And this doesn't take away from their Social Security. It's just an extra. It's just an extra. It kind of just all goes into the big pot. You know, when you do pass, all the money you have in Social Security that they would have paid you from age 70 to 90, that just goes into the pot. Okay? And that's what they end up paying these type of benefits for, or the Medicare payments for children when one of the parents or both parents pass. So, big pot, big umbrella, do your research. But again, we didn't want to hand out all those handy-dandy little information sheets because I knew you'd just be looking at them and getting totally overindulged by all the numbers and your eyes would be going, oh. And we just kind of wanted you to kind of listen to me babble on. So I'll be available afterwards to answer questions and hand out forms and tell you other things you might not need to know on your personal, individual needs. Let's take a breath. How about everybody stand up?
Thank you, Leslie. So we're going to move through the last part of it because we do want to get to questions and comments. Just wanted to come back to this. So you can see there are services that are available. And again, this is not an exhaustive list. There are things available through the Department of the USDA, the Department of Agriculture has programs for elders. There are other places that you can source help and support for you and for your loved ones. And again, the purpose of this is that we're trying to fulfill something very important, which is a community goal, which is keeping people in their homes and their community as long as possible. So in truth, who is providing that care though? Who is actually, yes, these things do help, but who's actually doing the work of home care is provided by family, friends, and volunteers. That's who's really doing it. That's what's making it happen in our country right now. The primary burden also will fall, financially and practically, will fall to a spouse, a child, or a partner who is largely unremunerated. There is some support, but largely unremunerated in terms of the amount of time. A lot of people can't work anymore because they have to take care of someone who in need. So this is an area that in terms of a political will, if you have any interest in politics, and I know that's a heavy topic around anymore, but this is something that we need to be making a lot more noise about, is getting our caregivers actually a stipend where they're getting the support that they need. There is a quiet heroism of caregiving, and it's finally getting press. Makes me emotional. There's a little action that needs there is little action at this point to help remedy the burden on the primary caregivers. See this a lot. And increasing the attention and resources to support in-home care is critically needed. The challenges of providing care are obvious. There's directly proportional to the degree of the dependency of the person needing care and the severity of their mental, emotional, and physical issues. The more the person needs, the more you're going to have to give to help support them. It can take over your life. Care needs and demands only increase as the person declines. Yes, there is some financial and practical help, as Leslie was talking about, provided and also provided by local nonprofits like Divine Mother Church, The Well, and other places, but it's very variable. Who gets Sacred Son Ministries is another that's been very helpful to people, but it's very variable who gets that support. And good luck is not a community care plan. So what do people have to resort to? What do they try to resort to? Is hired home help. So hiring help to assist people at home. These are either private contractors, people that just do this as their job, or they may, and this is kind of a cool thing that's been happening in Fairfield, like exponential increase in the number of people that are just providing private care. And some of them have even created little private services. There are a couple of really great mother-daughter teams out there that have actually set up care where they have a pool of care providers and they're out working this. It's pretty amazing, very resourceful. And they're doing the work, which is great. But private and public monies is what's required. A lot of private monies, your own money, is going to pay for this, and there's some public monies, but not a whole heck of a lot. So what Leslie was talking about, the CDAC program, which is the Consumer-Directed Attendant Care. Again, this is also known as the elder waiver. It is mostly unskilled support for activities of daily living, ADLs. They do also provide respite care for primary caregivers. It does not require licensure of the provider, the person, so it can be anybody that can do this. You can actually apply to become a CDAC worker. But as Jocelyn said, $13 an hour. I'm sorry, these people are not, there aren't people that are going to be willing to work for $13 an hour. It's not realistic. Who can live on that, right? If you're a mother with 3 children, you can't live on $13 an hour. And so yeah, there's this thing, I'll pay you under the table, and then you're skating on, this gets to be, you could get penalized terribly for that. So this is a huge problem, and yes, CDAC is there, but it is in absolute chaos in terms of, because there aren't care providers to provide. You can apply, but who's going to come take care of you? No. So what can provide help for home care? If you have long-term care insurance, if you have that, you're very lucky. You may actually get coverage for some of your home care to varying degrees. This very much depends on, you have to be on it. And if you talk to people who have long-term health care and they're working with taking care of a dependent person at home, they spend a lot of time making sure that that coverage keeps going. And you can see here that an average 55-year-old male will pay $1,700 a year for a 3-year policy that covers $164,000, and an average 55-year-old woman will pay a lot more for the same coverage because women live longer. So there's there's insurance, right? So yeah, you have the insurance, but then where are the workers? Where are the workers that can actually provide the home care? Good luck. So where does it fall? What is the cost of home care in our county right now? I don't know what it is in Johnson, for you Iowa Cityans that are here, but in our local economy here, a local hourly rate for a care provider, someone coming into your home to provide care, runs between $20 and $45 an hour. No licensure is required. There is no regulation of this. There is oftentimes no formal training. Even the people that are providing the care may not have formal training, but that actually can be okay because they can have a wealth of personal experience, and there's some astounding caregivers that are out there that don't have any licensure or anything, but they are top-notch because they've just done it a lot. But you also have to be careful about who you're actually hiring. Be vigilant. Otherwise, you have CNAs, certified nursing assistants. They've had 4 to 6 weeks of training. LPNs, licensed practical nurses, 2 years. An RN, 2 to 4 years. And they're going to be, they're going to be on the higher end of that pay scale. So again, oftentimes this is something that people just work out, private contracts with people. But this is expensive. Can't say it enough. The crisis, mass exodus globally and locally from caregiving occupations, it's happening. Those of us that do this work, boy, it's breathtaking. I spend a lot of time scrambling trying to find workers for people. Largely the labor has been and continues to be people who are very young, women, and immigrants. If you close the door to immigrants in this country, you are closing the door to one of the great pools of people who culturally and capably and they're willing to do the work, and you cut them off. You cut them off from the pool of care. So for just a consideration, when you think about immigrants and who are they in our country and how important they are to us in many ways, one of the things that they do in this realm is very much around caregiving. These jobs, this work, they tend to be, it is hard work doing caregiving. They are overworked oftentimes, they are underpaid. This is getting better in this private system, but they're still underpaid, and they're undervalued because it's considered this sort of less than work. This is changing, but we need to be responding more to the dignity and the importance of caregiving. This is sacred work in my book. when you get a chance to actually serve someone. And we need to be thinking more about that and making efforts to actually support them better. Because institutions and systems, and this can be, you know, nursing, home care, nursing services and stuff, have failed to support caregivers. They don't protect them enough. And we need federal, state funding and other resources to expand home care and train home care providers. This is a big deal. What are the barriers to addressing these needs? The problem is many critical resources are not available. There's a lack of coordination. This is something we're trying to remedy. Let's talk. Let's get together. What's the well doing? What's Jefferson County Hospital have to say? What does the city have to say? Let's talk together about these problems and come up with some ideas about how we might approach it. A lot of the services are not easily accessible. Unless you have someone like Leslie, God bless her, holding your hand, these services can be very difficult to access. And they can be inadequate to the actual needs of people. Yes, they are a step in the right direction, but they are not complete. So the challenge before us is to build our resources to address the gaps. We must bring in substantial money from these things in order to be able to have a chance of creating something different here for us. Now, this is all very depressing. Sorry. But it's the truth. It's the truth. And we need to pay attention to this in order to really get the will and the attention and really work to change things. So locally, what can we do? So something Fairfield Cares is doing. This is not a unique goal to us, but it's certainly something that we put forward right away. Our long-range goal is to improve in-home health and other support services for our rapidly growing population of elderly and disabled residents. And we want to work in partnership with other entities, with groups, city planners, foundations, etc., to do that. So what we have is we have a 3-phase action plan that we are trying to start in this realm. The first phase is something that we've actually started. This is conduct a needs assessment. And what that means is that we're going to do a county-wide survey. This is actually in the process of being created. We've had 2 local grants from the LOST grant and then from the Greater Jefferson County Foundation have given us a couple of small grants, and we've had some generous donors that are helping us fund this. But this is to conduct a needs assessment, which will give us a picture of the current needs through data collection. We need numbers. We need to really have that information in order to do phase 2, which is create a strategic plan, secure money largely through grant writing, and then because we want to create a healthcare collaborative, actually working together to create a supportive environment for caregivers and people receiving care, and then develop other resources. And the third phase is to continue the work of phase 2, and so that's to keep it so that it works through time. So this is where Fairfield Cares is now. We are creating this needs assessment. Be on the lookout for it. We hope the survey will be ready maybe by the end of the year. We can always hope. We actually hired someone to help us create it and to get it out to the community. And we're going to need your help to fill this out because we want as much data as we can get. We need at least 300 people, but I think we'll be able to do that. For just the room here plus a few more, right? So it's good. But we must define the scope of the problem with statistically significant data. That's why we're doing this needs assessment. This will enable us, in partnership with our community, to plan strategically and develop proposals to bring considerable funding into our community to implement phase 2 and 3. So the needs assessment survey, this is more details about it. We don't need to go into this too much other than there are about 3,000 residents who are 65 and above in Jefferson County. And we need 10% of those in order to get this to look like we want. We want the information, that kind of data, for it to really be reflected. What's happening with caregivers, what's happening with people receiving care, where are the gaps? We want as much information as we can get. And then we'll also be, so we will be talking to caregivers themselves, as well as medical professionals who refer people to these services. So we're trying to get it from different angles. Again, we're going to identify gaps in services, availability, accessibility, adequacy, coordination, and then these are the services that we're going to be kind of measuring. How are these doing? What do people need?
It is fun, yeah, it should be a little dark.
So when we're done, we hope we're going to create a final report, which will really have this beautiful picture of our town or in our county. And then we'll have these survey results that we're going to analyze them, consider the implications of those results, and consider proposed next steps. So throughout this process, we'll continue to cultivate the culture of caring. This is so important. Support the community building initiatives and groups to reach across all ages, genders, beliefs, and social conditions. We are all in this together. We need to help each other to do this. This isn't going to be done by one group or anything. It's going to require all of us. Promote public and private services in doing so, and always, always, always celebrate life in our community. This is a celebratory thing, the power of our capacity to create change. This is a powerful thing to get hooked into. We need to feel like we can do this, and it's important that happens. Long-term institution care, and then who pays for that? So there are three big ones. Continuing care in retirement communities, assisted living, and then skilled nursing facilities or nursing homes. So conventional CCRC, continuing care retirement communities, these get lots of press. So they say that they're going to have independent living, so they have places where people can be together in their communities, and their little gated communities. Then they move them into assisted living when they need a little bit more care. Then from assisted living into skilled care, and from skilled care into hospice. But long-term, well, who pays for this, right? You have long-term care insurance. Good long-term care insurance will pay for it, or private pay for the wealthy. They just pay the bucks. So that's the CCRC. Assisted living. This is another one that's really relatively new on the care scene. Most of these people need, and this is very important qualifier for assisted living, is non-medical assistance. Non-medical assistance with activities of daily living. They need help taking their pills. They need help with brushing their teeth, or getting them to the meals or things like that. Just that level of assistance. They may have some decline in their mental functioning, so maybe they get confused or lost or things like that, and so these places are set up to help them. They typically, you pay a monthly rent, basically, functionally a monthly rent, for a private apartment or room, and then an additional fee, and this is seriously, this is hilarious almost, this additional fee for the level of care needed by the minute. So if you need, they're ticking it up, man. They got it. Well, you have 5 minutes of needing nursing care, and then once you get to a certain level, then they bump up the cost. So in this county, we have 2 assisted living facilities. We have Addington Place. This was formerly Sunnybrook Assisted Living. It's out there on near Suburban Heights. That's the start. $5,281 per month. That's what it costs to live there. They're going to do your laundry. They're going to cook your food. It is a pretty building, for sure. It's interesting how it's changed though, because these have definitely moved quite thoroughly into for-profit models. So they're looking to make their bucks on this. So what they do is they start pulling away from other services that used to be available. Like an example of this would be when it was Sunnybrook Assisted Living. At one time they had a budget that the first iteration of Sunnybrook Assisted Living, they had a monthly budget of $3,000 for entertainment for the people that were there. So this was performers, people to come and read, everything. When my mother actually lived here, she stayed at Sunnybrook Assisted Living. By the time she died, it was down to $300 a month, because they didn't want to pay for the coordinator to coordinate that service, and it wasn't in their budget to be able to do that. Then we also have the Oaks. This is connected to the Parkview Nursing Home. Lots of people don't know that's there. It's kind of quiet. It's very small. There are only about 15 beds or 15 apartments. And again, it's a little less expensive at $4,747 per month. And these are, again, who pays for assisted living? Long-term care insurance, if you have it, private pay, no Medicare or Medicaid. So this is definitely not an option unless you have, there could be exceptions to this in maybe a nonprofit type assisted living, there could be an exception in that, but in general, this is not going to be accessible to us mere mortals. Fun fact, of the more than 55.8 million elderly adults in the United States that are 65 or older, 1.3 million live in nursing homes. So we're going to move into nursing homes now. And that represents 2.3% of the elderly population, which may not seem like much, but it is 1.3 million people. Skilled nursing or skilled care or long-term care, all synonymous. These are facilities for residential care for older or disabled people. Most are of a hospital format, so they have, linoleum floors, they have a nursing station, call lights, you name it, the whole thing. Depends, oftentimes you'll have a shared bath, some have private baths, but sometimes they don't. But they have 24/7 nursing staff and also offer, one of the things that they do offer at nursing homes is rehabilitation services for short-term stays. This is like if you had a hip replacement and you needed physical therapy for a couple of days to get strong so that you could go back home, then they will provide that at a nursing home, and then you're just charged out. Residents do, if you're in a skilled facility, residents generally do require nursing care and supervision and assistance with most activities of daily living. Most people end up in nursing homes as care needs exceed the ability to live alone or the support systems to care for them. Their situations become so complicated that their loved ones who don't want to do this to them, but they're just stretched beyond, and they can't take care of them anymore, then they end up in nursing homes. The ratio of patients to care providers varies greatly. This can be very poor. There's a place up in Washington where there were 60 residents and there were 2 people taking care of 60 people in the night. It's just unconscionable what can happen. And again, that whole thing of the loss of people being available to do this kind of work has really impacted nursing homes. They are struggling to keep people employed. And then what they do is they end up hiring what they call long-range nurses. So they hire them from like Florida or something. They'll bring a nurse up here, and then they end up paying that nurse, $45 an hour, and the workers there that live here and are working there are getting, 20. You can imagine how that goes over. But they're just trying to fill gaps. It's a desperation situation. And again, these are not bad people. These are people that are absolutely doing their best to care for the people that are in their charge, but it is an overwhelming task. There's too few of them, they're overworked, underpaid, and undervalued. And truth, if you go into nursing home, maybe you even know people in our nursing homes here. Some of the people that are in our nursing homes really only need assistance. They really only needed some assistance, but because they couldn't find it, then they end up in nursing homes because they couldn't afford home care or assisted living. So you have skilled care ideally should be an exceptional phenomenon. We should have, yes, we're going to need these places because sometimes people's physical care is just so extreme. They need that kind of care. So we do need these, but it really should be exceptional. It shouldn't be the kind of the dumping ground that it can turn into. A lot of these places do have memory care, which means oftentimes that it's a ward or an area that's locked. And they keep the people safe in these locked areas. And again, depending on the budget that they have, what they're actually able to provide in terms of care and assistance for these people can vary wildly. They do have hospice services. Oftentimes, that are offered in the person's room or in a designated suite. So they do sometimes have that in nursing homes where they'll segue into that. Our nursing homes here in Fairfield, we have two. The Prestige, which was the old hospital, and then was Sunnybrook Extended Care, which are all these Sunnybrooks. It's like dizzying, but it is now called the Prestige. That's the cost per month. It is a for-profit institution, and it's owned by an out-of-state corporation, and a guy in New York, and they have had a number of violations for safety, and it's pretty grim. Just a second, Jasmine. And then Parkview Care Center is the other. It's a little less expensive, but not by much. And it's also for profit, and it is corporate owned. So these are the two nursing home facilities that we have in our community. So who pays for skilled in residence care? If you have long-term health insurance. But most people, to the point, not most, but a lot, 48% of residents in Iowa that are in nursing homes are on Medicaid or private pay. And then what happens is that you start with private pay until you run out of your money, then you apply for Medicaid, and they'll see you out the rest of the way. So it's a way of, unfortunately, the way it's set up is that you end up depleting people's resources, and this is actually this is a very interesting part of this story. Our next speaker next week is Shane Zisman, and he'll talk more about this, and in terms of when you're estate planning and things like that, about Medicaid in more detail than I'm going to go into here. But Medicare, right, not so Medicaid, but Medicare will provide short-term residential rehab services. They will cover that. These are mostly post-surgical. Sometimes they are for people who've had different types of brain injuries, and then some at-home services after discharge. So they will do that. Medicare will cover it, but it's very prescribed and very limited. Medicare is continuing to restrict home care availability, which then ends up driving more people into nursing homes. It's a problem with our system, right? It's broken. So, now you're depressed. Sorry, kids, sorry. But this is why we need to be thinking together. We need to get creative. We need to get our juices around this and think differently. So one of our goals in Fairfield Cares is we have discovered this wonderful phenomenon that is really underway in the United States and actually in Europe as well. It is called the Greenhouse Project. Now, this is a system or a concept where understanding that there is going to be, for some people that are going to need personal care of a skilled nature, right? If we design this properly, we should be able to keep most people in their homes through their lives. But sometimes it gets really hard. Certain conditions can become extremely difficult, and this is where you need the skilled care. So, greenhouse projects for that, and what would they be? Small, ecologically designed homes for frail, elderly, or disabled. It's very person-centric. They're in small groups of about 14 residents, that's all, and they live together. It's actually a home environment. There's no nursing station. When you walk into a greenhouse project, you walk into a living room and a kitchen, and the people have their own rooms with their private bath. It feels different. It's an entirely different type of organization for care. The homes are placed within the community, so you're not siloing them out into the periphery, which is what happens to a lot of our nursing homes. They end up isolated out there and forgotten out on the edge of town. They are, what we would like to create is a private, non-profit structure to keep the focus on care and not on the profit margin. So this is about protecting the quality of care. This is in everyone's best interest, for our group and for coming generations as well. This system, the Greenhouse Project, has been proven to be financially and practically effective and successful in our country. These are up and running, and they're doing extremely well. So this is where we want to put our juices, and our pressure is to actually start moving towards something like this for us. On to hospice. Big topic. So hospice services. What are they? Most hospice services are services that are actually provided in the home, so that the hospice workers come to your home. Or they can come to a nursing home or to assisted living, they do that. But they are end-of-life support. What you require to get into hospice, you need a referral from a primary provider where they say basically that there's an expectation that the person's life expectancy is not something less than 6 months. Now, of course, yeah, who knows, you know, and certainly people they can be in hospice for years. Sometimes they're not going to kick you out. But as far as how you get access to this kind of care, that has to be, that's one of its requirements, is that there's an expectation, a reasonable expectation that you wouldn't be alive in 6 months. When you join hospice, you're agreeing that you're going to discontinue any medical curative treatments, so no chemotherapy, things like that. Those things would be discontinued, and that palliative care would continue increase. So those are services and methodologies that help promote well-being through the end of your life. Hospice services do include regular nursing visits, activities of daily living care, so they come in and do baths and things like that, which is really wonderful. They provide massage, which can be very lovely for people who have been bedridden for quite a while, really tremendous. And then they have chaplaincy services, that sort of thing as well, and very importantly, they do provide medical and equipment support, so they provide all that. This is really important that you understand this about hospice services, it does not include 24/7 care of the person. They're going to come and go, but they are not going to be there to take care of your hospice loved one. It does require that there be at least one primary caregiver in the home 24/7, or care services provided in an institution. That's something, so you can't be on hospice and be on your own by yourself. You have to have someone who's going to be there is taking care of you. Some of these are still nonprofit, but a lot of them are now moving for profit entities. The good news is that they are covered by insurance, Medicare or Medicaid, or private insurance. Generally, this is a very well-funded, well-covered service. So what are your hospice options? In services in Southeast Iowa, there's Every Step, which is in Mount Pleasant, Hospice Compasses in Hospice of Washington County, which are out of Washington, Iowa, Good Samaritan, which is out of Bloomfield, and Care Initiative, which is out of Albia. So these are all those services that would come to your home, or to the nursing home or the assisted living. There are inpatient hospice services, and those do provide 24/7 care. Some have an open door, meaning they take anyone. They have resources, grants that they have, or if insurance is not available, they will bring people in, but you do have to ask whether that's true. They are often nonprofit entities, and they in-home and inpatient, generally both of these again are covered by Medicare, Medicaid, or private insurance. The inpatient hospice services that we have in Southeast Iowa right now is that there are two pretty good ones: Great River Hospice, which is in Burlington, Iowa, and then the Bird House, which is in Iowa City. That's a very amazing place. It's a house in a neighborhood, very lovely. And then there's the Prestige, has a suite, hospice suite that they have. And then Jefferson County Hospital also has a hospice suite, but that suite is really only for people that are requiring skilled care. So you'd have to have something like an IV that's delivering medical support for pain control or something like that. There has to be a reason for you to be in the hospital. They're not just going to take any hospice person in for that. But it is there, and it is very nice. So that's in Jefferson County Hospital. So what is our Fairfield Cares goal around this? This is my dream. Is a hospice care home. This would be a nonprofit, again, a private nonprofit with an open door. Anyone comes. So you can bring your hospice service with you, as with a resident, but otherwise we would have staff there that would tailor palliative care to the needs and desires of the resident. with a special emphasis on the spiritual support of the dying. That's my big thing. Home-like environment in a peaceful setting for residents and their family and friends. So there's big work before us, but there are things that we can be doing. But it is going to require some energy and attention on our part. So, an invitation to you. Get involved at whatever level you can. Coordinate our efforts in this community we call home. And always, always, thank you for everything that you're doing already, because I know so many of you are. So very grateful for that. And yeah, there's a sign up on the back there at the table for our Fairfield Cares newsletter if you'd like to get that. We send those out about weekly. Gives you updates of what we're up to in Fairfield Cares and how you can get involved. Other ways to get involved, contact a volunteer service. There are lots of them. There's just some of them over here. Fairfield Cares Volunteer Center, RSVP, the Well. Attend caregiver workshops. These are now available through the Jefferson County, out there at the fairgrounds. Thank you. I was the extension office. They're having caregiver workshops. Keep an eye out for those. They're very good. Participate in meal trains as they come your way. It's a wonderful way to get connected and do something really important for people. And please share your concerns and your needs with local officials. Let them know. They can only do their job if we tell them what to do. Otherwise, they're just left to their own designs, right? So we need to give them some guidance. That's what our democracy is about, right? Is we don't just turn it over to them. We say, listen, this is important to us. We need to be doing these things. There is the Resilience Action Committee, which is something I just started getting involved in, which is really a collaborative effort. This was inspired by the local Sierra Club, but it's really trying to bring all of these different groups together to do just what we've been talking about here. It's very exciting. So, onward and upward. Thank you so much for coming today. Thank you for being here for this marathon session of information. Hopefully there was some information here that was useful to you. And now if you have questions, what we'd like people to do is to come up to the mic so that we can record it, because this is how we'll have it on the recording.
Is there an administration organization that exists now for the reception of donations?
Yes, where we have Fairfield Cares is a nonprofit, so any donations that you make will be going into that nonprofit, and you can make it out to Fairfield Cares if you write a check, Fairfield Cares Inc. Or you can go on the website fairfieldcares.net, and there's a donate button there, and you can donate. And we really appreciate that, especially the monies that we need to complete this needs assessment. So every dollar is going to help us do that. It's really going to go directly into getting this picture of what care is in our county. So thank you. Any other questions? No questions. Wow. Thank you very much.